So, welcome to Pointless Stories with Karsh and FS. This is episode 22, Summer of '06 Part 2. So, we were at the Poet Society and the impact that a teacher has on the lives of their kids. So, Karsh, how do you weigh in on this as being, somebody who has chosen to be honest, and I think this, take up a very noble cause in their lives? Because we know the impact that a teacher can have, especially a good teacher can have on a kid's life. So, what do you reckon? How's your perspective changed? Or what have you learned? What do you think now?
Man, it's honestly it's a very interesting question, and I just want to say it says a lot about you that you would even ask this because it does require like curiosity and insight to even wonder about these things, you know.
No.
And
I've wanted to ask you this for a long time.
And I remember talking to a friend about this pretty recently, where it was like, what their thoughts are on how they feel about teaching and teachers now.
Yeah.
Versus how they did when they were in school themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, man, again, it might be like a biased perspective as well, because now I'm looking at it from the perspective of a teacher, right?
Yeah.
But I've come to like empathize with our teachers from when they were in school.
Yeah.
Like often I wouldn't really give it much thought. Like I never really thought about it much when we were in school. That wow, they must have like really tough lives, or just the amount of work that they would have put in to give an hour-long class,
Yeah.
Like typically we would have one period for an hour, and I would feel like everything's already there. They just have to kind of come in and like teach, right?
Right.
And I never really thought about the amount of work that goes into like every hour of class.
Yeah.
And also the other aspects of like teaching a class, like classroom management, like making sure that everyone's like quiet and not making noise and paying attention.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in school and thinking like sometimes I would be not very understanding of the teachers, where I would feel like, why are they in such a bad mood today? Or like, why are they having like these mood swings,
Yeah.
Or why are they kind of like, being so harsh with the students today? And I didn't really get it at the time, but that's one thing where my perspective's kind of taken a full 360.
Right.
And now I'm like, you know what? I really do understand why, they did the things they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you have like a class of, let's say 15 students, everyone, all of them, you have the group effect of all of them together. It can be a real challenge to manage them.
Yeah.
And to get them to follow instructions and to listen to you. And, there's a lot of pressure on you from a lot of different parties, from obviously the school itself that expects you to, teach the kids and to teach them well. Obviously from kids' parents who like expect you to do your job well.
Yeah.
And you really have to make a lot of different people happy, and all the while managing like a pretty difficult group of children,
Yeah.
And I can see how that could take a toll on your, just on your well-being from time to time, and how you like could lose your cool sometimes, and maybe like be a little too stern with students. I've started to become more understanding of that. I think that's been the major change for me, over the course of this journey from student to teacher.
No, that's great, man, because I didn't think of this, but I'm thinking of it now, because in my daily life, because I deal with adults, it's all right for me to be angry. I constantly lose my head or at least like I maybe it doesn't show, but I do lose my cool very often, and it's very hard to keep it together when the world is surrounded by like idiots. But like if you were in an environment with children in it, I can understand how that is not even a possibility for you. Like you have to completely change your behavior so as to not lose your cool, and that's not like to keep yourself in that regard professionally is very hard, man, and I'm sure it's not easy. And well done.
No, man, thank you for that. Like, it truly has been an experience, and one that makes me appreciate my teachers even more. Like, I think even just going into adulthood, I'd already started to appreciate our teachers.
Yeah.
Just part of being an adult is like looking back at your past differently, right? And like reevaluating the kind of people that you had in your past.
Yeah.
I remember even our friend Kevin.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I think it must have been in college. Maybe we were in like, our first year of college or something like that.
Yeah.
We were like talking about our teachers, right? And he mentioned one in particular.
Mm-hmm.
He was like talking about Shakuntala, man.
Right.
And he was like, man, I didn't realize it at the time. Like, I was so resentful of her as a teacher and like how she taught us.
Yeah.
Like, I never looked forward to like her classes,
Right.
And I knew that if I went into class, I was gonna get yelled at or like have her be just way too stern and strict with us.
Yeah.
And then now I remember him saying this like all the way in college where he's like, man, I would like kill for someone to come teach me math right now who's like her.
Yeah.
Because like kids today, they're so like easily discouraged and they're just not used to that kind of like disciplined way of doing things.
True.
Where he's like, yeah, when I look back at it now, I really needed that kind of like tough love and like stern treatment in class.
True.
And yeah, man, I was starting to become more empathetic with respect to that. Now that I'm seeing a lot of it myself, and then feel like there is a reason why teachers can be like stern at times, and like even discipline students quite harshly, like where most when we were kids we never understood that. We would be like they're just being unreasonable.
Yeah.
But I do understand that a lot more now.
No, that's very insightful, man. And I've also changed perspective of how I viewed teachers back then and how I view them now. But I think we've also got like an entire mix of them. The English teacher bit, right? So I think I think your opinion's similar, but like in my time in school, my favorite hour was always English. Because in language, there's no right answer. It's about perspective, right? So you don't need to come prepared. You don't need to learn or keep in mind a certain number of things. There's nothing to be prepared with. It's just what you think or what you can say. And I've always liked language for how open-ended it is, right? So I think English was definitely our favorite subject at the time, and also our teachers, whoever taught English, all of them had a certain Dead Poet Society vibe to them, most of them at least. Because Umesh, alright, but even Shanta or whoever else taught us, they were all very similar. Like, they come from a background where it's open to interpretation. So I think as a kid, like in math is math. 5 times 5 is 25. There's a wrong answer and there's a right answer. But in English, it's not. Nothing's wrong and nothing's right. So it's all about what you have to say, and I think that opportunity to be heard and like the responsibility that comes with having the ability to form an opinion is something that I quite liked, and I still like to this day. I think long after we've left school, we're still, I think the thing that we've kept most in touch with is our love for language.
I think so too, man. Like, that's one thing that hasn't changed at all. It's like the only constant in those like 20 plus years
Yeah,
is we still like things where there's room for independent thought, there's room for creativity,
exactly.
and there's room for you to have like your own like ideas, like in math there really is no individuality, no like independence of thought. Like everything's an equation, everything works according to laws, right?
Yeah,
Where if you look at like English, any language for that matter, and even many social sciences, right? Many like liberal arts as well.
yeah.
Uh, a lot of it just comes down to your interpretation and how well you can articulate that perspective.
Right, and that was really like eye opening, and like I said, I don't like being prepared for anything now. Like we're not prepared for the podcast. Like anything that you have to prepare for is not something that I'm a fan of. Like I go to meetings just I don't know why we are generally bringing it with whatever we do, but also
Always.
what gives us the most joy is bringing it, because you're already prepared. The person who you are in all the years you've lived has prepared you to do whatever you genuinely are. So any place that
That's
you can
amazing.
do well where you're not prepared is a place where you are the right person who should be there. So I don't know, I've always embraced never giving a shit, but also the language teachers. So even though we say all these beautiful things now, we were horrible kids. I wanted to ask Karsh, like, do you have a Karsh and FS in your class? Because, like, we were proper menaces. I remember the English teacher once walked into our classroom and refused to teach as long as the two of us were there. And, we weren't going to apologize. So we had about a week where, the English class was just empty. But I remember one time she came into the class and we had, like, a couple of tennis balls on the door closer so that when she opened the door, it will fall on her head, right? So we were mean kids. We were constantly pranking teachers. We never let them teach. We would constantly interrupt them with whatever jokes we thought was funny, and any mistake they made, we would call them out on it. So, like, I'm sure, Karsh, looking back, you can see, if you were in your own class or if the two of us were there, you'd, probably wake up hoping that both of us were sick and didn't turn up to class today, because we were absolute dickheads, man.
Oh man, we really were, dude. Thankfully, there's no one in that I teach who's like a real menace like that.
Nice.
Because we proper made their lives hard, like for the teachers.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like we were truly one of a kind. Like I think grade 7 especially, like we were just like tough nuts to crack.
Absolutely, man. And like I remember, even though our teachers were there after getting a bachelor's degrees or master's degrees, that we genuinely assumed that we knew better than them. Because I remember this one argument we had with our class teacher where he said, the felling of trees, and we thought that was wrong, right? Because obviously this is a man from a village, he doesn't know English. We told him it's the falling of trees, and turns out he was right. It is the felling of trees, but we honestly had to we fought him on that. So I can't, like, looking back, I can't believe the kind of dickheads we were. But like आजकल ज़्यादा नहीं बदला है, मतलब थोड़ी.
Man, we were just too arrogant and egotistic for our own good, Like we just wouldn't ever accept that we could be wrong.
Exactly.
But I remember, man, it could be worse. Like I remember at my other school, the one I transferred to, like our biology teacher there, right? He was very experienced in biology. Like He'd been teaching for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and it must have been grade 11 or no, maybe grade 10
All right.
when he would teach biology at school, and there were a few kids. I think you know who they are already,
Yeah.
but they would start debating him on like evolution.
No,
Where,
man.
yeah, they were.
Oh, God damn it! Like, I'm ashamed to
But-
know these people.
But man, they were. I was just surprised by their confidence. You know, like they were like legit convinced that they knew more than like the teacher on this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, they would often like turn into full debates between the students and the teacher.
Nice.
And I'm like, man, even this guy must be thinking, ये मैं कैसे बंदों के साथ आ गया हूँ,
सही सही ये कौन से बेवकूफ मुझे मेरे सब्जेक्ट पढ़ा रहा है मगर यार like in all honesty I can see how that would happen. And one thing I wanted to mention, right, is how our journey is so different from everybody else's. Because Karsh was a notorious atheist, like from the day I met him, and this was very young, like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, you don't see atheists, and he was one. And I remember a very like insightful question you asked once to an English teacher, but she was also a moral science teacher. Like हमारे वहाँ यार लोग moonlight भी करते थे मगर
wearing multiple hats.
yeah. So he once asked, like if a kid has his parents killed in a car crash, does that mean God does not love the kid? And it's a very insightful question for like a kid in the 3rd grade to ask. But like at that point in time, Karsh was like the only atheist, and everybody else was devoutly religious. Just like how he mentioned, they would fight anybody on anything. And I wasn't incredibly devout as well. I was always Muslim, but I didn't care too much when I was younger. Whereas when we were younger, everybody around us, every single person around us was incredibly religious. And as time went on, you slowly saw the religious kids become agnostic, which is the ones that I hate the most. Like, pick a side, you want to be an atheist, be an atheist. You want to be religious, be religious, but don't be agnostic. That just means you're a dickhead, right? But the agnostics in middle school became atheists in high school, right? And we had the exact opposite journey. Our journey to faith was like we started out not believing, and by the end of all of this, we found faith. Also, buddy, just you remember Iman, who I told you about, who's from Abdabad? So
Yeah.
she got married to a dude named Faraz, and like how wedding hashtags are a thing. So her name's Iman. My favorite hashtag in terms of all weddings is when she got married, and the hashtag was Faraz found faith. So it's alliteration, and it has play on words with both their names. But
That's amazing.
yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but yeah, so our journey's been the exact opposite of what most people's journeys were, but I think it's better this way. I think we had it, right all along.
I think so, man. We just, that's the thing about where you end up in life. Like, you have to go through what you did to end up where you did,
True. But sometimes
and,
people travel backwards, man.
Yeah, dude, that's it, man. We had to travel, like, to a lot of different places to get to where we did in the end, And I do think it's better that way, like finding yourself rather than like...
acceding to what society tells you. Yeah, true.
For sure, definitely. And yeah, man, usually it's your experiences that shape you, So like as you grow older and have like diverse experiences, it makes you think about the world differently as well. And that's like a natural process that leads you to where you're going to end up.
True. And anything that you've kind of found on your own, like, it doesn't leave you. If your religion's a hand-me-down, that's definitely not something that's going to stay.
Absolutely, man. Like, if you if you got to that place independently, like, through your own, like, kind of experiences and then process of figuring things out,
Yeah.
then you're never really going to forget that.
Absolutely. But going back to 2006, what else do you remember, man? I remember we've covered a lot of this in other parts, but we used to play for the team. Sport was really important in our lives. Women we've talked about. What else?
This one's related to both sport and women, so it's funny you mentioned those two things, but yeah, those are two big themes in '06, right? We used to play sports a lot,
Yeah.
and we had like a lot of romantic interests as well.
Yeah.
But there was another story from that time which, has really stuck with me because some of the best days I had at DPS were towards the end of my time in grade 7.
Right.
But this has been another recurring theme in my life, and it's one that I'm not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Is, I've like moved a lot, right? I've changed like a lot of like places, schools, countries.
Yeah.
Like change has been like a recurring theme in life.
Yeah.
And often this happens often is like when I'm going to leave a place,
Mm-hmm.
in the last few days that I spent there, right?
Yeah.
In that time, I only in those days I started to think about how special my time there was,
True. Yeah.
And I think that's normal for many people. Like when
Yeah.
when you're living the moment, you don't really think of like, how special it is. It's only in hindsight or like towards when it's about to end that you start to, to value it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I remember in grade 7, that was that the last few weeks that I had at DPS were like some of my most cherished days, where I was truly like living in the moment and making the most of each day, and like knowing that I'm going to leave in a few days, and like it's everything that I'm going to leave behind in that time.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that those days we weren't even having school, like. But we were still coming to school for like practice.
Yeah.
Because we were having like in the inter house cricket tournament.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So that was at the end of the year, right? By that time we'd finished our final exams, everything was over, but we were the sports people were all still coming.
Yep.
For all the different tournaments, ping pong, cricket, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, I'd already started talking to another girl.
Right. You move on fast.
And
yeah.
Because the one with the other girl, the Valentine one.
Yeah.
वो तो आपको भी पता है how that ended, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
The Bewafai, just, the direction I went in.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
So then, I started, and the funny thing is that the girl I started talking to after, it was the Valentine who introduced us together.
Right.
But I don't think she ever intended for us to like, to like talk like, and then like a romantic interest kind of way.
Yeah.
She just introduced us as friends, and that's how we started to know each other.
Nice.
But I remember, man, because we would have the inter-house cricket competition, right? Yeah. So I remember I would like bowl for Rose, and I would usually open the bowling.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And this crush was different because it was like, I didn't even know that she liked me back. Like I liked her from the minute we'd met,
Right.
I always thought she was really nice, and I liked her from the start.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea like how she felt, right? And then this is one of those memories where often after the game we would like meet, we would hang out, like we would talk to each other. Because she would come to school for like table tennis, and this is one of those like teenage crush stories like that we always think of, where just hanging out at school with your crush, and like,
Yeah.
after the game we would just talk to each other, spend time together.
Yeah.
And what I thought was crazy, man, like many years later, like when we started dating finally, like this was in like high school at this point,
Yeah.
she confessed to me that like in those days, she would, you know how like the porter cabins had like the like staircases that went all the way up.
Yeah.
So she was like, she would go up there, and when we would have our cricket matches,
Yeah.
and she would like watch me play cricket from up there.
No way.
And
No way. Nice.
and she was like, yeah, I even like recorded you playing cricket a few times, like, took like a photo or video from up there.
What?
I was like, yeah, she was like, I didn't want him to know, but I like, like wanted to see him play.
Right.
And it was just one of those memories from school where it's like, man, we always had this like fantasy scenario of, meeting your crush in like the hallways, and like having your crush come to watch your games and like come support you, root for you
Yeah.
when you're playing your favorite sport.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time because she never told me, but in hindsight, man, that's exactly the life we lived in, like your middle school crush, like watching you play your sport. And yeah, man, we lived that sweet Valley High life without even realizing it.
Dude, like, I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, I know how this ended, right? But like at the same time, it makes me like, I'm genuinely smiling when you're describing this, because this is exactly like, this was our dream. And like, to know that it was true to that degree, it makes you happy, right? The second thing is, I'm also really thankful that she didn't tell you during that tournament, because like, I'm sure the amount of confidence that would instill in you would make you really hard to play. वैसे ही काफ़ी मुश्किल था आपको फेस करने, तो ये भी लेकर आते तो भाई वो हमसे बर्दाश्त नहीं हो सकते थे. So
that's hilarious, dude.
Yeah. Now, if she wasn't in your house, like, I would understand, like if she was in my house, I'd tell her, tell him a few days later. But she was in your house, so यार मतलब house के लिए भी कर सकते थे कुछ. But
no, man, I think I want to say she was in like Lotus or Lily,
Oh right, no, she was in Lotus. Yeah, she wasn't in Lily. Like,
yeah, Lotus.
Yeah. Okay, so she was neutral. Yeah, makes sense. So didn't tell you, but man, I can't believe that is true, and I also can't believe कि हमारे ये जो matches थे जिसके लिए हम ही लेट आते थे, वो देखने के लिए लोग आते थे भाई.
Exactly, bro. Like, it's so crazy, but I think, yeah, जब किसी को आप पसंद करते हो ना, you really do wanna watch them do something that they're good at.
I'm sure this will be the only reason you'd watch a ping pong match,
Oh, dude, for sure, man. But it's funny because I started playing ping pong later on.
Yeah.
And once, like, we happened to meet at a tournament where she won her game, but I lost mine. Because I was just a noob at ping pong, Like, I started playing because of her mostly.
Nice.
But I remember her telling me that, that because it was just, man, girls are much better at hiding crushes than guys.
True.
Like I don't know, man. Like they can hide a crush for a very long time, because I remember when we would come to those games, like I would dread batting. Like, I was never a good batsman, right? That was never my thing.
Yeah.
So, and she noticed that I was never really like comfortable with the bat. I kind of just wanted to. I would come in last.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be done with it.
Yeah.
And you know how like crushes were back then, right? When you like someone, you would like roast them.
Yeah.
And I remember.
Yeah. But
that was flirting back then, right?
yeah.
That meant you had riz if you could roast someone.
Oh, dude, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I remember after the game she would come and roast me about my batting.
No
And
way. Oh, you had to know.
yeah, and I was like, man, how did you like? I was like, no way that she like, she's probably just like a friend who like,
Genuinely
who
wants
likes
to
to give you a
give,
hard time.
yeah, wants to give you a hard time. No, man.
But
That's so
yeah, man,
sweet.
all of these things.
Yeah.
It was really funny, man, and I hope she didn't watch that one game though, where it was pretty early in the morning, so I don't think she was there. But
Right.
I remember, man, I was bowling to you and Adnan. You guys were
Yeah,
opening for Lily.
Yeah.
And man, you guys whacked us, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, man, like मैं यार आपको एक बात तो बताता हूँ कि ना मेरे ना अदनान के कोई क्रश देख रहा था. हम सिर्फ हम सिर्फ अपने काम के लिए कर रहा था भाई. मगर this is not badass, but this is so beautiful, man, because like I'm being honest with you, that was our dream, yeah. कि यार आजकल भी जो भी हमारे ख्वाहिशात है उसकी मुताबिक ही है कि we still roast our crushes, we still we're still horrible at hiding it. मैं यह बंदा पूरे दुनिया की सामने बताती हूँ आपकी भाभी की कहानियाँ, मगर यार वो ऐसे नहीं, like they're much better honestly at hiding their emotions. But like when women love you, they truly do, like यकीन कर सकता है कि मैंने अभी तो एक बेवफा की बातें कहा था मगर उसकी कभी मोहब्बत नहीं था, मगर है तो यार वो बेहद अब से करेंगे. और यार like you're right, that Spring Valley promise that we kind of had was, but dude, like I can also see कि जैसे कहते हैं ना कि Afate Hussein, like I can see how you found love but you also had to leave, कि वो भी आसान नहीं होते हुए थे कि I'm sure that must have been hard as well. Yeah, कि मुझे भी यार वैसे मोहब्बत की ये बुरी आदत है कि जब अलविदा कहने के वक्त आते तो लोग उसकी फीलिंग्स पूरे उस वक्त बताता है, मगर वैसे मुझसे मेरे हिसाब से नहीं हुआ, मगर like it's quite common. But dude, I really like the story. That's all I have to say. It's so sweet, so pure.
Yeah, man, it's just one of those like innocent memories from back then. But you're right, bro. Like इन चीजों का उस वक्त एहसास नहीं होता है कि ना कितनी अहमियत रखती हैं ये और कितनी मुश्किल है to find these things in the world.
Yeah.
But बाद में जाके तो यार इनका दुख जरूर होता है when you lose something that's very precious and very like hard to find.
Yeah.
और हमारे साथ तो ऐसा कई दफा हो चुका है, it's happened more than once. तो यार हर बार लगता है कि यार इस बार हमने मतलब we've learned to value things that are like valuable, but it's I think human nature to some extent too. When we have everything we need and want, then we take it for granted. We don't really think about what life would be without it.
Absolutely.
But हाँ bro, ये तो है और पता है हमारे खिते में and like with the kind of politics there are in when it comes to relationships, it can be it's much harder to make them work than it is elsewhere. मतलब क्या कहते हैं, there's that saying, right? And it was so funny. We used to say this, and it was funny because our जो gatekeeper था उसका नाम भी काजी था, but it was like अगर लड़का और लड़की राजी तो क्या करेगा काजी.
यार सही, that was so true. Yeah, so many meanings in that one. You're right. That has like 2-3 levels to it as well. It's beautiful.
Dude, yeah, there's many layers to that one, you know. Like you know, if you know, you know. That's the thing. Is like you can't really.
जो भी सुन रहे हैं आप समझे नहीं कि बात एक और बात सोच लो बात है उसमें.
यार तो हाँ ये हम अक्सर कहते थे ब्रो you know कि काजी क्या कर लेगा but हाँ हकीकत ये है कि ब्रो हमारे खत्ते में when you're dating and stuff you know there's so many other factors जो आपको तो पता ही होगा कि you know it's सिर्फ लड़का लड़की को राजी होना काफी नहीं है it's like लड़की के वालिदैन को भी राजी होना करना पड़ेगा और you know उसके अलावा ब्रो जैसे सब बहुत सारे लोगों को खुश होना होगा for things to move forward you know
हाँ यार और बात यार ये अगेन सिर्फ मोहब्बत में ये दुनियादारी जब भी लेकर आता हो ना काफ़ी मुश्किल है यार कि इसलिए अरेंज मैरिजेस इतने अच्छे तरीके से मतलब इतने आसान है कि वो सिर्फ दुनियादारी है कि it's you're not wrong but it's also everything that you're talking about is also not a part of love you know कि लोगों की राज़ी होने और मोहब्बत होने की यार कोई मैंने काफ़ी अरसे पहले ये लिखा भी था कि मुखलिस मोहब्बत हमेशा ज़माने के ख़िलाफ़ है और यार ये सच है कि ज़माने की जो भी मतलब जो भी चलता है वो यार मोहब्बत नहीं सिर्फ दिखावट है मगर यार क्या करे हमेशा मतलब कभी कभी होता है कि वैसे ये भी मैंने लिखा था कि सच्ची मोहब्बत हमेशा अधूरी रहता है बस पता नहीं यार पता नहीं कि मोहब्बत ही कुछ और बात है मुझे आजकल लगता है कि किसी ने अगर मुझसे कुछ मशवरा मांग ली ना तो मैंने सिर्फ इतना कहूँगा कि यार मोहब्बत नहीं करो ज़िंदगी में कि यार एक तो बात ये है कि हार गया तो यार दिल टूटता है और हारा नहीं तो यार जी हारा नहीं तो फिर भी यार हमेशा मसले ही हो जाता है कि it's not very pragmatic in all honesty.
It's really not as it requires a lot of work and it's also like when it goes south you know and if it goes south it's like it can be impossible to recover from you know it's something I've seen first too where you know everyone has setbacks in their lives but man like a setback like a bad heartbreak or like a bad breakup can be something that they never really recover from you know
True.
Like it just becomes part of them like it you know it changes who they are permanently तो ये तो है यार बिल्कुल सही बात है you know I mean I remember I don't know. This is like a very random memory that's etched in my memory. But I was in Goa, right? And there was a really good friend of mine there who like he has he's got a shack in Goa.
Right.
And you know, really cool guy, very accommodating, very chill. He speaks perfect Russian. Because like most of the tourists there at his place, you know, were Russian.
Right.
And I remember him telling me about one of his like high school crushes or like high school relationships. It was very, very, very innocent. Kind of sounded like the ones we had back then, you know, like just very pure, innocent, like affection and you know, like. Nothing transactional, nothing koi dunyadari nahi, koi matlabi nahi, you know, very like genuine love.
Yeah.
He's telling me how that like things didn't work out in the end. And he was like, and he said in a typical like, you know, Goa, Mumbai accent, where he's like, yaar uske baad pura feeling khatam ho gaya.
यार यार
So,
यार यार सही है कि हाँ यार मतलब जो बंदा बदल जाता है भाई कि जो भी यकीन था सब छोड़ देते हैं ये बेवफाई वाली फीलिंग अगर बेवफा नहीं थे फिर भी आ जाते हैं भाई but like in the last couple of years I've read like a few शायर से वैसे हमेशा शायर को देखते हैं तो उसकी दिल कभी ना कभी किसी में टूटा हुआ होता है एंड दे ऑलवेज से यार मर्द की ज़िंदगी में हमेशा दिल टूटना लाजिम है कि the motivation that it gives you at least one time if you've had your heart broken the motivation it gives you is like uncomparable to anything else कि आपको सबको गलत साबित करना ज़रूर होता है उसके बाद कि कामयाब होने ज़रूरी है the motivation we never had from anything else we got from heartbreak.
honestly, that's true though. I never thought about like the bright side of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it definitely brings out the beast in you. It unleashes the beast for sure.
Yeah, and like मुझे एक वक्त में यार इस हार्ट ब्रेक से काफ़ी मोहब्बत था कि ये like it drives you a lot in life कि कामयाब बनना है कि it motivates you in the gym कोई प्री वर्कआउट नहीं चाहिए सिर्फ बेवफाई की यादें काफ़ी है तो
यार बात कर दी यार आपने
जी मगर यार वो आदत पड़ गई ना तो मतलब उससे छूटना भी काफ़ी मुश्किल है and I've learned to let go of that in like recently और यार मगर मैं ये बात खुल के बताता हुआ कि इतने बार हमने मोहब्बत में हारा फिर भी यकीन नहीं छूटते भाई आज भी आप मुझसे पूछ लो कि इस ज़िंदगी में सबसे खूबसूरत एहसास क्या है वो मोहब्बत ही है कि कितने भी हारा हम मानेंगे नहीं हमें चाहिए भाई मोहब्बत
वाकई यार ये तो है I mean, ये एक ऐसा नशा है जो यार धोखा खाने के बाद भी हम अभी we're still like committed to it.
हाँ यार
and we still like believe in the idea but I still remember, man, I don't know what year this was, but it's like you were going through some heartbreak and it was like the immediate aftermath of it, like kind of coping with it and like figuring out how you were going to manage it and stuff. And I remember you telling me like you would even on days when you were sick you would still go to the gym. And I thought that was insane, man, because like just people aren't motivated to do that even on like regular days. And if you're just not like not feeling well and you still go out and like put in work, that's honestly crazy. That kind of motivation can like really only come from heartbreak.
यार हम वैसे भी काफ़ी ज़िद्दी है कि if like for example if somebody had told me कि यार आप तो मतलब स्पोर्ट खेलते थे जिम जाओ बॉडी बनाओ अच्छे होंगे I wouldn't really be motivated but like at some points in my life if somebody came up to me and made me feel insecure about how I look यार हम तो हारेंगे नहीं like that would be the best motivation we're motivated by hate more than we are by love मगर मोहब्बत की बात में यार ये तो बात सच है कि आप आज भी अगर मैं like even if I'm sick if I can like if it's like a cold or a fever or something like that like if I can get out of bed I still go to the gym but मतलब आजकल आदत पड़ गई but like at that point of time I want to tell you this also कि heartbreak is so motivating that like मैंने ये शहर से भी कहा कि I need to get rid of this revenge attitude कि जो वैलेंटाइंस डे की लड़की है ना उसकी बाद यार सबसे हमें मतलब इतना हिसाब रखा है हमने कि मतलब हर मैदान पर हमें फतेह होना है कि इतने मैदान बाकी है भाई कि जो मतलब जो आखिर लड़की आता है ना उसके हिसाब से ये इंसाफ नहीं कि मेरे इतने मसले हैं और उसकी सब जवाब बनना तो ये लड़की की मतलब काम नहीं है भाई। तो आई वाज टेलिंग शहर की जो भी हमारे जहन में पड़े है वो सब मतलब गलत बात है। और उसने कहा हाँ ये सही है मतलब छोड़ दो ये सब, जिंदगी में कोई हारता है, हारने या जीतने से कोई फर्क नहीं, मतलब मोहब्बत में जो हारता है वही वाकई में मोहब्बत करता है भाई। तो उसने कहा यार छोड़ दो कि जो भी आपकी ज़िंदगी में बेवफा या ऐसी लड़की थी उसकी तो यार खुदा देख लेंगे, तुम क्यों उसकी हिसाब मतलब सही करने निकल रही हो। जो आपके साथ है उसके जो उसकी हिसाब आप सही रख लो कि वो जो डिज़र्व करता है वो कैसी लड़की है उसे वो दिलवा दो, बाकी सब आप छोड़ दो। तो यार मैं भी आजकल मतलब ज़्यादा सोचते नहीं जो मतलब हुआ है पहले। मैं हमेशा वैसे कहता हूँ मैं सिर्फ एक बार मोहब्बत की हूँ और वो आपकी भाभी के साथ है।
No, man, that's honestly a great attitude to have, and I think it's the right attitude to have as well. Like, I remember telling you that I start journals with a quote, right?
Yeah.
Like a memorable quote.
Yeah.
That kind of sums up the theme of that journal.
Yeah.
And I remember this one that I wrote down, right? I just think and I started the journal with this one. It was about the same exact topic, like getting out of these revenge fantasies, and kind of like trying to change the way you think about what's occurred in the past, and not looking at it as a score that needs to be settled, but rather as something that happened and now it's just done and over with. It doesn't affect you anymore. I remember I started the journal with this quote. It was from you, and it was some L's you just have to take.
No way.
And it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's so true. Like, some L's you really just need to see them as like bygones, and get out of this fantasy that you're going to settle that score, and once you've done that, everything will be okay.
I don't remember saying that, man. When was that?
It was in Doha, like when I came to visit this time.
Right.
But I can't remember where exactly. But we were in your car, as we often are.
Yeah.
And like, just chatting, and you were. I was just kind of telling you about what was going on what had been on my mind, and I think, man, it was really good advice. And like, if I was a therapist and I had a patient, that's definitely the advice I would give them. Advice I would give them too is to like not get caught up in this, in this vicious cycle of seeking like satisfaction through like revenge.
True.
Because it rarely goes the way you think it will,
Yeah, it takes away from your happiness, doesn't it? Like, if you are holding on to your past, you're really not able to enjoy what you have now. So, वैसे शहर ने ये भी कहा था कि यार सफ़र खूबसूरत है और सिर्फ उसमें गौर करो, और यार ये भी सच है. Like, there is no final score.
It's like, yeah, there's no fulfillment in that, and you're right. It does take away from your fulfillment and your happiness. Like, you're not able to appreciate the present. Like when you're constantly in this made up scenario in your head where you get the revenge that you were seeking.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely in terms of like satisfaction, it's a much better way to live,
True. और यार अगर आप सोचे भी तो मतलब पर्सनल ना हुए और सोचे तो यार हर इंसान की ज़िंदगी में तो हारना लाजिम है. तो ये यार होते like maybe that's why I told you that कि यार होते there's no points, nobody wins everything, but यार वैसे ये जो तेरी तस्वीर वाला एपिसोड थे और वो जो बात है, मैं शहर को भी वो कहानी बताई है, और उसने वैसे आजकल तो वो सिर्फ भाभी की बात सुनते जा रहा है। तो शी सेड यू नो यार फहद, मैंने मतलब बंदों की यार बातों में ना कि शी सेड यू नो जो नॉर्मल बंदे हैं उसकी बात ऐसे होते हैं कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा वो कहेंगे कि यार बंदी काफ़ी प्यारी है। और ये यहाँ आप खड़े हैं कि मुझे बता रहे कि लाइट ऑन ऑफ हो रहा है और मुझे कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा है। और उसने कहा कि यार मैं काफ़ी एडमायर करता हूँ, और उसने कहा मेरे हाई स्टैंडर्ड्स है, मैं वैसे सबको एडमायर नहीं करती, मगर जिस तरह आप मोहब्बत करते हैं ना, मैं काफ़ी एडमायर करता हूँ। तो मैंने पूछा क्यों? तो उसने कहा यार ये मुझे समझ आता है कि आपके एहसास कि हमने सिर्फ मतलब 5-6 बार मिले, मगर ये जिस तरीके से आप एक शख्स के बारे में बात करता हो, मुझे वो सुनते ही समझ आ रहा है कि आप उनसे बेहद मोहब्बत करते हैं। तो यार शहर ने ये भी कहा कि यार मुझे उसे दिखा दो, मुझे देखना है कि दुनिया की सबसे मतलब खूबसूरत बंदी कैसे लगता है। तो मैंने उसे कहा यार वैसे मैं उसकी फ़ोटोज़, या ये तो प्राइवेट बात है, तो मैंने उससे कहा कि यार शादी पर बुलवा देते हैं। तो उसने कहा अच्छा यार ठीक है। तो उसने ये भी कहा कि मैं अपने उसकी तो ख़ुद की बंदा है, तो वो तो उससे ये डिस्कस करता हूँ। वैसे हम यार यार बन गए कि वो उसकी हर क्लाइंट की चुतिया पे लव स्टोरी मुझे बताता है कि यार एक लड़की है, उसकी 5 साल की रिलेशनशिप है, और वो रिलेशनशिप मतलब उसमें वही मसला है, मतलब जो भी पेशेंट क्लाइंट पेशेंट डॉक्टर कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी है वो मेरे लिए ना एप्लीकेबल है, वो सब की कहानी मतलब बता रहे हैं। और उसने कहा कि यार मैं तो आजकल सिर्फ दिन भर ये झूठे मोहब्बत की कहानी सुनते रहता हूँ, और जब आप आते हैं ना मुझे खुश लगता है कि आपकी मोहब्बत तो हकीकत है भाई। तो यार ये सब सुनकर आपने वैसे मुझसे भी कहा था कि एक लड़की की वैलिडेशन काफ़ी अच्छी बात होता है, तो मुझे भी ये लगा यार। और मुझे सिर्फ ये कहना है कि अगर मेरे ज़िंदगी में और यार हमारी ज़िंदगी में ये दिल टूटा नहीं हुआ था, तो हमें शायद वो पहली वाली मोहब्बत मिल जाते हैं। जैसे आपने पहले कहा कभी कभी हम हार जाते हैं, मगर आखिर हमारे हमारे ही जीत है। तो अगर वो वैलेंटाइंस डे वाली हमारे दिल टूटे नहीं थे, हमें अगर वो मिले थे, आज हम यार बेशक नाराज़ होंगे कि हम ही खुदा से शिकायतें करे होंगे कि यार किसने पूछा इस शख्स को अपने अपने लिए रखने। तो यार कभी कभी ना हार हार यार वैसे हार मानना ही मोहब्बत है, कि मोहब्बत के लिए कभी हम लड़ नहीं सकते। अगर मैं जिससे मोहब्बत करता हूँ ना, अगर वो मुझसे कुछ भी कहे मैं हार जाता हूँ। अगर वो मुझसे लड़ाई करे फिर भी मैं कुछ उससे कहूँगा, वैसे वो करूँगा नहीं, मगर कहा भी तो मैं कुछ मतलब जवाब देगा नहीं कि यार वो मोहब्बत में तो हार जाना ही लाजिम है। तो अगर हमने हारा भाई तो हम किसी चीज़ के लिए हारा होगा। अगर हमने कुछ, वैसे आपने कहा कि कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना भी ज़रूरी है, तो अगर हमने खोया तो कुछ ख़ास पाना भी है। और जो हमने आजकल मतलब जो हमें मिला ना, ये हमारे ख्वाबों से भी मज़ीद खूबसूरत है भाई।
कमाल ब्रो कमाल। वैसे हाँ यार, ये लाइन जो है मुझे, मैं अक्सर इसे याद करता हूँ क्योंकि बाजीगर वैसे फिल्म भी बहुत कमाल थी, और
जी
उसकी ये लाइन जो है ना वो it just stuck with me because it's मेरे जो तजुर्बे हैं उसमें भी तजुर्बे भी में भी मैंने ये हकीकत देखी है कि अक्सर बिना कुछ गवाए कुछ
पा
पाना
नहीं
भी
सकते
मुमकिन नहीं होता।
जी। हम तो बाजीगर निकले भाई।
नहीं यार, वो वाला बाजीगर तो ऐसे हरामी था काफी, though he like
हाँ हम भी है भाई
it
था,
gets
हम
see
भी
it
था।
gets back to that thing we talked about, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a recurring theme, but बाजीगर ये 90s की फिल्म थी ना, तो
हाँ
उस जमाने में again India was still very much influenced by by
Yes.
socialism and the principles of socialism, you know,
Yeah.
and the idea that being very wealthy is like inherently a bad thing, you know,
Yeah.
and in फिल्मों में villain हमेशा would be like an evil rich guy, you know, or evil rich businessman.
Yeah.
और बाजीगर भी same ऐसी movie थी, you know, like the villain, the क्या नाम था उसका दीपक, you know.
Yeah, I know the guy, but naam yaar yaad nahi aa raha.
यार मैं भी भूल गया उसका नाम वैसे, और हाँ जो भी बंदा था वो he's like the most evil guy you can imagine in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, he just like gains this guy's trust, like then like steals everything he has, you know, and then like reduces him down to just like complete poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's very reflective of like India at the time, where it was like very strongly believed in this idea of like, you know, of like equality for all.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, Shah Rukh Khan played that role so well. Like, there are very few movies where I could say, man, Shah Rukh Khan, like, he acted really well. Like, you know,
Yeah, true.
he did something that was truly unique.
Yeah.
But this one for sure, man, like, he played a serial killer, like, just a psycho killer, like, just brilliantly.
Yeah.
And the way he covers his steps and everything, you know, like how he gains their trust, and then like, you know, wears those contact lenses so nobody knows who he is.
Yeah. Oh man, you remember so many details. But it's true.
Yeah, man, I've seen it a few times, but उसका वो line बड़ी मशहूर हुई थी, you know, कि कुछ कभी-कभी कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना भी पड़ता है. Because the context was him, like, he loses he gets into the racing car, like, you know, he's like not a Formula 1 driver, but like a racetrack driver.
Yeah.
And he races her dad, like the girl's dad, right? And it's obvious that he was going to win, but then he, like, you know,
takes his
like slows down and lets her dad win.
Yeah.
And then he says that, you know, कि कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना पड़ता है, because he lost the race, but then he gains their interest and their, you know, like their trust, and eventually, like, he does to them what he did to his dad.
Yeah, man. This is true, but we're almost at the hour mark. So this was part 2 of what we started before. We started at 06, we ended up at Bazigar, but that's you know, it's it's quite common with us. मतलब कहीं पहुंचने के लिए तो शुरू भी कहीं ना कहीं से शुरू करना पड़ता. So
oh bro, come on, bro.
No, I'm just messing around. So this was I think this is the end of season 1 of Pointless Stories with Karshan FS. This was episode 22, and this was part 2 of Summer of 06. And in all honesty, just before signing off, this is probably like my favorite of all the lot, you know. It's like you've got to finish the season on a high note, and I think we've done that, man, because this was like our favorite year, and it was well done. I mean, I'm praising ourselves, but I think you'd agree with me on that one.
Yeah, man, definitely. We reflected on some really good memories, and, you know, really put together like I think what were the highlights of that year, you know? Because we often reference this year in our in conversation, but then when we truly reflect on it and then think about what memories stand out to us, it's definitely these ones, the ones we went over. The one thing I'm surprised didn't come up at all was Money Sir.
Oh, dude, yeah, we forgot about him.
Yeah, because I think that's definitely a very memorable moment from that year.
Yeah,
And it was the reason that I changed schools, you know, because I
yeah,
actually failed math in when he was the teacher. Um, and I was like, you know, man, I don't think I'm like I need like a severe like change, you know, of setting to like to do better.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, he was like he really ruined that year for